Welcome, focused learners, to today's explainer. All right, our goal today is absolutely clear-cut. We are going to shatter those limiting beliefs you might be holding on to about wealth. We're taking a really deep analytical dive into the psychological and strategic differences between the top 1% and the 99%. By drawing directly from a fascinating analysis of socioeconomic data and mindset paradigms in Indonesia, we're going to uncover what truly separates the elite from everybody else. Because, spoiler alert, it's not just about luck, it's entirely about how you perceive the world around you.
Okay, let's map out today's journey. We're looking at 5 hidden keys today: the economic reality, the scarcity trap, the Archimedes principle, managing long-term energy, and finally, becoming the endless learner.
So let's jump right into Section 1, the economic reality. We're looking at the stark contrast of wealth distribution in Indonesia.
To truly grasp the mindset of the elite, we first have to look at the raw, honestly shocking socioeconomic reality. Picture this: a staggering 80 to 85% of Indonesians survive on spending less than 3 million rupiah a month. When your daily existence is boxed in by numbers like that, you're naturally trapped in a linear survival mode. I mean, it becomes incredibly difficult to even think about long-term wealth creation when you're literally just struggling to pay for basic housing and food, right?
Now, I want you to take a second and honestly ask yourself where you might fall in this broader population. We've got over 194 million people sitting in the lower or vulnerable class, but then look at the absolute sheer contrast at the top, the ultra-high net worth individuals. This is the true 0.001% elite who spend upwards of 50 million rupiah a month. According to banking data from the source, there are only 3,800 of these individuals in the entire country. Just 3,800 out of hundreds of millions. So you really have to wonder, how do those 3,800 people think differently than the rest of us?
Which brings us to Section 2, the scarcity trap. It's time to debunk some myths of opportunity and this idea of a limited pie.
The very first major difference between these two groups is deeply rooted in our psychological defense mechanisms, specifically how we process failure. You see, the 99% mindset is heavily conditioned by the pure fear of poverty. The immediate paralyzing thought is almost always, oh no, what if I go bankrupt? What if I fail? But the 1% mentality, they flip the script completely. They ask, what if it succeeds? Instead of just sitting back and relying on abstract concepts like luck, which the source essentially defines as just a cause and effect you don't understand yet, the elite are out there actively running around to manufacture their own opportunities and create real value.
To really understand how they create that value, we've got to look at this absolutely striking metaphor from the source. Money is energy. The elite don't look at money merely as paper to be spent on temporary, fleeting pleasures. No, they view it as a pure energy source. And just like your physical energy, it has to be carefully conserved and then strategically deployed to multiply itself. Think about it. If you frivolously burn through all your energy or all your money, you're left with literally nothing to build your future with.
And adopting that specific perspective entirely destroys the ultimate fallacy of the 99%. This toxic idea that wealth is a zero-sum game. It's this belief that wealth is just a limited pie, and if someone else gets a slice, well, you get less. Honestly, that just breeds deep cynicism and a victim mentality that literally repels money away from you. The 1% operate entirely on value creation. They know for a fact the pie can be expanded through collaboration. Think of a giant company like NVIDIA, right? It's not just one person hoarding all the cash. It's a massive collaboration of investors and creators all expanding the pie together so that everyone wins.
All right, moving into Section 3, the Archimedes principle. This is the grand secret of wealth leverage.
Listen, if you take away absolutely anything from today's explainer, please let it be this: you must stop trading your time for money in a linear way. Welcome to the core engine of all massive wealth, leverage. You know, Archimedes famously said that if you gave him a lever long enough, he could move the entire world. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept. Leverage is simply using an external tool to multiply your output without increasing your own physical input. Lifting a massive rock with your bare hands? That's linear effort. Hard, exhausting. But using a long lever? You use a fraction of the energy to achieve a massively disproportionate result.
So what do these modern levers actually look like? Well, the wealthy use hidden forms of leverage to completely decouple their income from their working hours. First, there's capital, which is simply money working for you. Then there's labor, which is using other people's time, like say owning a local chicken restaurant where you aren't actually the one in the back cooking. There's intellectual property, kind of like how Disney creates a character once and then sells the merchandise forever. We've also got artificial intelligence, acting as automated agents. And finally, network effects, where the users themselves are the ones creating the value.
Let's actually break a few of these down. Let's start with the most accessible leverage for pretty much anyone: capital. It's essentially a simple three-step process. Step 1, you purposefully save a portion of your monthly income. Step 2, you invest it for compounded returns. The source uses the really solid example of an index yielding 12% annually. But step 3 is where the magic happens. You let that capital act as little soldiers. While you're fast asleep in your bed, those financial soldiers are out there on the battlefield fighting to bring you back more money. You're no longer trading your direct waking hours for a paycheck.
But if you want to see the absolute highest peak level of leverage, you have to look at network effects. The source points straight to Meta's $1.5 trillion empire. Think about it. Meta's founders aren't the ones creating the content you scroll through every day, and they certainly aren't the ones watching the ads. They simply coded the lever, the platform itself. Influencers leverage labor to make the videos, we viewers consume them, and Meta just sits perfectly in the middle, leaping these massive financial rewards through automated ads without doing any of the linear work. Now that is maximum leverage.
Moving right along to Section 4, Managing Long-Term Energy, the Marathon Mentality versus Shiny Object Syndrome. Here's the thing. Securing leverage and capital is really only half the battle. How you manage your energy over the long haul determines if you actually get to keep it. Just follow the classic, almost tragically predictable 99% timeline. Month 1, they launch a new business and they are completely fired up. Month 3, they inevitably face normal, everyday business hardships and, man, that enthusiasm just plummets. By month 4, oh, they're done. They quit completely and start chasing the next trending, shiny object. Yesterday it was crypto, today it's AI, tomorrow it'll probably be selling artisanal ice cubes. It's just an impulsive cycle driven by FOMO, which basically guarantees they are constantly starting from zero, never ever allowing their efforts to actually compound.
By complete contrast, the 1% are just hyper-obsessive. Actually, scratch that. They're wildly diligent. They act like diligent ants preparing for a long winter. When they hit a wall, and they will, they don't just quit and change industries entirely. They figure out how to climb that wall or how to improve their efficiency. They pick one identity, like, say, being a lifelong investor, and they stick to it obsessively for decades. And because they stay the course, their skills and their capital compound to truly massive proportions.
And that leads perfectly into our final section, Part 5, the endless learner, shifting from raw knowledge to elite judgment. To maintain that crazy level of focus over decades, you absolutely have to shed your arrogance. The source highlights this incredibly powerful philosophy from the late Kobe Bryant. Make the world your library. You see, the 99% often fall into the trap of thinking learning stops the minute they finish school, which just leads to stubborn arrogance. But the top 0.001%, the ultra-wealthy conglomerates, they are never ashamed to feel stupid. They will eagerly sit down and learn about complex new technologies from a 25-year-old if that kid has the expertise. They leave their ego at the door every single time because their true obsession is with growth, not with just looking smart.
Let's move to and see how this humility actually builds into the ultimate wealth-building framework. It's a clear progression. Step 1 is simply gathering raw knowledge, reading, studying, observing the world around you. Step 2 is gaining understanding, which is where you start to connect the dots between all those isolated facts. But Step 3 is the absolute prize, developing wisdom and judgment. When you successfully combine knowledge and understanding, your judgment becomes so razor-sharp that you can actually anticipate market shifts and make highly accurate, objective decisions before anyone else even sees what's coming.
So, what does this all mean for us? The absolutely crucial takeaway is this. Wealth isn't just a number sitting in a bank account somewhere. It is a completely different way of processing reality. We've seen the raw data, we've broken down the mechanics of leverage, and we've explored the mindset of the endless learner. Now I want to leave you with this final vital question. Based on everything we've just covered together, what is your very first step to elevating your family's standing? How are you going to break your own cycle of linear income starting today? Think deeply about it, find your lever, and start building. Until next time, keep learning.